Hello and welcome back to my channel. I'm Dr. Bianca Bush, board certified psychiatrist, coach, educator, and your encourager. This is my channel, Test Anxiety No More. I help high achieving students beat test stress so that they can get to the next step in their lives. And a part of that is thinking about who's in your community. In a video that I made just a bit ago, I talked about your naysayers, your haters, your ops. And today I want to talk about how to build that community so that really you have people pushing you on. And I'm going to talk about 4 types of people that you should have in your community. And I'm going to start with the encourager. So I'll share a little bit about who's on my team so you can think about who can be on your team. Now, in terms of encouragers, my number 1 and number 2 are my mom and my sister. They are fantastic. They have been with me along the whole journey. Anytime I get discouraged, they're there to say that you can do it. Anytime I have a win or something to celebrate, they're some of the first people that I go to say, hey, this exciting thing happened. And they're always celebrating with me. So you need that encourager in your life. Other people who have been my encouragers, my college friends, I continue to keep in close contact with them. They celebrate my wins with me and encourage me when I'm discouraged. I also have this one time when I think about an encourager. When I think about an encourager, I also think about this time when I was in medical school. I've had many failures over the years and obviously many successes because I'm here. But there was a time where I failed my neurology block, which was huge, right? Not just one test, but the entire block, which meant I had to remediate. And I was so discouraged. I was feeling like, oh my gosh, can I even go on? But at the same time, I was running. I was a part of a run club called Black Girls Run in Denver. Fantastic. Shout out to all of my sister friends there. And after I learned that I failed that neurology block, I was on an early morning run. We used to meet about 6 a.m. to run. And I was talking to my friend June Washington. Shout out to June. And I was in tears. I was run crying. It was ugly. And I was saying, I don't think I can do this, June. I think I'm just going to quit. And she said, girl, you are not going to quit. She said, you're going to go back. You're going to take that block again and you're going to keep going. She said, you are not about to quit. Now, we did not break stride. We kept running, and this is something I had learned being in that run community. No music. We would just talk on our runs, right? And I was so grateful for her in that moment because after that run, I had the natural endorphins that come with the run, but I also had her in my head saying, you're not going to quit. You're going to keep doing this. So encourager, you need that person in your life. So I have my mom, my sister, my college friends, and I thought about June in this moment. And so when we think about the core characteristics of the encourager, we're thinking about these 3 things. Someone who has unconditional positive regard for you, that they believe in you. Even when times get tough, even when things look impossible, they believe in you and they encourage you to keep going. They can reframe setbacks. They help you think about what's happened as either a learning experience or something that's just a little blip, but is not going to determine your final outcome. They are emotionally steady, right? When you're coming with overwhelm, with feeling discouraged, they can say, okay, let's think about this in the context of other things, right? They're not just saying, oh my gosh, it's over for you, right? It's not going to happen for you. They can be just really steady, really constant, and be there for you. So how do you find the encourager? You want to look for someone who's saying, you can do this, you've got it. I believe in you, right? Those are the things that you're going to hear. And chances are you already have someone like this in your life. I hope you do. If not, you can look to me. I'm always going to be here saying you can do it. Even if I don't know you personally, you can do it. But there's probably someone who's already in your life who says these things to you, right? So if there's someone who leaves you feeling more capable to do what you want to do after a conversation with them, chances are that's an encourager. Let's move on to number 2, the mentor or the guide. The biggest person that comes to mind for me is Dr. Deborah Frank. I met her when I was a Congressional Hunger Fellow, initially placed at Boston Medical Center. Met her, thought she was phenomenal. She was one of the only women in her medical school class at Harvard. She founded a research study, she founded a clinical program, and was a great advocate for families in need around food security, those kinds of things. Just amazing woman and serious powerhouse. So I asked her after meeting her in the Hunger Fellowship if I could work for her, if she had a job, and she did. And I became her clinic coordinator, for the Failure to Thrive Clinic. And along the way, I was taking my post-bac classes, and she really encouraged me on, checked on me. How am I doing in my classes? Let me know that I could do it. She really was an above and beyond mentor. So she gave me a job. Not only that, but there was a time when I was in my post-bac and I really said, okay, I want to accelerate this thing. I'm taking one class at a time. I want to take 3 classes. How can I do that? I need to work a little bit less to do that. And you know what? She made it possible. She sort of held my job for me while I did that. So I worked part-time instead of full-time for just a bit so I could knock out those classes. And then she also encouraged me to get a physics tutor. That was a weak section for me on the MCAT. She helped me do that and said, you know what, pay it forward. So gosh, she was just amazing. She also said, it was one of the people who helped me identify that I might have a learning difference or ADHD, because she said, I see how you work. I see you in clinic. You're excellent. You're on top of things. I'm not exactly sure what happened for you academically, but there might be something going on and you should get tested. And here are the ways that you can. So she offered practical advice. She was encouraging along the way. And I am always so grateful for her in my life. And I keep in touch with her even now as she's advanced in her career and I'm finally advanced in mine. She has long been a mentor and a guide for women in science and medicine. So, who is the mentor or the guide in your life? Do you have one? Here are the characteristics that you can look for. And I have a few other mentors and guides to mention, but here's some characteristics to look for in a mentor or guide. They have perspective and experience, right? They've been where you've been, or they know someone who's been where you've been and guided them along, and they have successfully pushed or nurtured people in the path that you're going to. They are a truth teller with kindness. They can give you feedback and say, hey, I think this is going on. You might want to consider this. But they're not mean. They're not rude. They're not dismissive, right? So just as Dr. Frank said, hey, I think this is going on. You might want to check this out, right? She was like, I don't know why you're not feeling. It doesn't make sense to me, right? She said, this is happening. These are some things you might consider. Here are some ways that you might go, right? So they're kind with their feedback. They're constructive with their feedback. They're invested but not enmeshed. So your success is not tied to their ego or any personal outcomes for them, right? They're really just invested in you succeeding. And if you fail, it's not a failure on their part, right? But they're just thinking about how to help you and how to help you reach your goals. All right, so how do you find a mentor? You want to look upstream. So you want to look for someone who is maybe a few steps ahead of you. If you're an undergrad, maybe it's somebody who's a postbac or a medical student. If you're a medical student, maybe it's a resident or a fellow. If you're a resident or fellow, maybe it's an attending, right? That's the medicine specific path. But for your career, just think about who's a little bit ahead of you. Maybe they're 10 years down the line. Maybe they're 15. Maybe they're 20. Maybe they're only even a year, but you want to find someone who can give you advice, give you some, or they have wisdom, they are wise, and they are also willing to do it. You don't have to meet with a mentor every week or every month. It might be someone that you just meet with quarterly. It might be someone that you check in with annually. So know that as well. You don't have to put a specific time limit on it, but it's just someone that you can reach out to get advice as you're going along your path. Okay, the third person to think about is potentially a partner or companion. And so this can be a romantic partner. This can be someone who is just a very, very close friend, and they are really walking the journey with you. So I think about who has been with me along my path. So when I was doing my post-bac and in medical school, I had a partner who was fantastically supportive all along the way, very encouraging. And then I also think about my husband, who is, man, he is my number one fan. If you ever meet him, when we're out and about, he is great. He's always singing my praises. He's like my built-in PR. Sometimes I forget to mention things that I'm working on or doing, and he'll be like, oh yeah, she's doing this, or follow her at her socials, right? So that's someone who is walking with you and always encouraging you. Hopefully that is the partner that you have. If not, maybe it is a close friend. So let's think about the characteristics of a really supportive partner or companion. So it's someone who's consistent. They're with you even during the boring stages, even during the hard stages, right? Not just the times where you're celebrating an accomplishment. It's those nights where you're studying and you've got to be up late. Maybe you're body doubling and you're just sitting next to each other. Maybe they're not even a student, but they're reading and you're working at the same time. Maybe they're just gaming and you're working at the same time, right? They're there with you in those boring moments to offer companionship, even if it's just quiet, right? Even if it's silent companionship. They're with you for the shared reality of things. They see you in the pretty moments, they see you in the ugly moments, and they're with you during those times. And they're maybe even helping you remember those times, right? Like, oh man, remember how hard it was for you to get all those questions done? You did it, right? And so for that reason, you're going to be prepared for this exam. Or, gosh, you worked really hard on all of those overnights and you saw really important things, and that's going to help you be a better doctor along the way, right? They can recognize the really tough times, the really hard moments, in addition to being with you to celebrating the great times or the accomplishments. Regulation through presence. This can be huge. And not all partners can offer this, but just think about the times where you're like freaked out, you're panicked, and they can be there as a constant, as a steady. Like, okay, I see what's going on. You know, let's take a breath, or I don't think it's as bad as you're thinking it is, right? They're able to sort of be that calm in the storm that's happening in your mind or in your body. So they're able to sort of regulate with just a calm presence. So this is a tip for you in general with relationships, but your partner doesn't have to be everything for you, right? So that's why we're thinking about these four key components in your community, but they do satisfy some key roles. So maybe they don't have all three of those characteristics, maybe they have two, maybe they have one. So know that they may not be everything for you, and that doesn't mean you have to kick them to the curb if they're not everything, but they can be some of the things that you need as you're going along your professional journey, your testing journey. Okay, the fourth thing that you want to think about for community or support is having someone who is your spiritual or faith anchor, maybe someone or something. And I'm thinking about this across all different kinds of faith. If this applies to you, if not, skip it. But the person that comes to mind for me is my pastor from growing up, Bishop David Cooper. Shout out to him. He has really been with me along the journey, even from undergrad, right? Introducing me to my college, helping me see what was possible there. But in the early days, he would always call me Dr. Pullen. That's my maiden name, right? Pullen is my maiden name. He would see that for me, even when it was looking impossible. He was there for college graduation. He was there even after when I went back home and I worked for a little bit. He would still call me Dr. Pullen. Now, my pre-health advisors had said, give it up, sis. It's not going to happen for you. Even some other folks who are meant to mentor students of color said, it's not going to happen. You can't continue to think about medicine. He was there always calling me Dr. Pullen, right? So he was there, of course, with sermon, thinking about what's possible through faith and calling and all of those kinds of things. So he was there for me on a larger spiritual level, but also on a personal level. And so I would encourage you to think about what this looks like for you in your life. And I'm going to go with me here as I think about sort of different areas of faith or different denominations, or what's the right word I'm thinking about? So we can think about how faith ties us to a larger moment, a larger purpose, and not just a specific moment, right? We can think about three shared principles across faith traditions. So let's think about hope, right? Gives us hope beyond the current circumstances. This is something that's common across faith traditions. Whether it's trusting in God, the universe, divine timing, luck, all of those things give us something to look forward to beyond the current circumstance. A second principle is meaning making through the struggle, right? So if things are hard, right? I think about feeling the neurology block. What does this mean? What is this time trying to tell me? Is it telling me that I need to learn how to study a different way? Is it telling me that maybe I need to slow down? Is it helping me so that in the future I may be able to help you or someone else who failed an exam, right? Faith can help us make a meaning out of struggle or failure. Third principle is surrender, the combination of surrender and effort, right? You're going to put in the work, but also you kind of just have to surrender to whatever this experience is, right? And that there are things that are likely beyond your control, but you're going to put in your effort, and then the rest has to happen by whatever means you believe in, right? So if we think about Christianity, some of the things that come to mind are hope, calling, and endurance. If we think about Judaism, things that come to mind are perseverance, questioning, and covenant. If we think about Islam, things that come to mind are trust, patience, and surrender. And for Buddhism, impermanence, compassion, and non attachment. Now, I just have done a little bit of research, so I don't know exactly all of the things about these different walks of faith, but I know that we have some things in common. So I'd love to hear in the comments what comes to mind for you when you think about particularly your faith community. All right, so we've talked about the four people or the four roles that you need as a part of your team, your hype squad, your community, right? You need the encourager, the mentor, the companion or partner, and then some aspect of faith, if that's applicable to you. Know that not one person has to fill all of these roles, right? We can spread out the responsibility amongst all of these different people. Think about auditing your community. Who's there? What roles are you missing? Who would you want to add? Where can you find them? Perhaps you need an additional mentor. So that's something to think about. Do you know someone who's going where you want to go? If not, seek that out. Ask around. Check on LinkedIn, right? And you can get access to that. If it's been a while since you've activated your faith, maybe now's a good time to check it out. Maybe you're not going to temple regularly or to mosque, but that's okay. Just check in with some of the principles that you know, or maybe even learn some that you don't know, but you think you can rely on. All right. Well, I hope this was helpful. I think this is an important part of being ready for your tests, right? My whole channel, everything that I do really is about getting ready for these big tests that can predict your next steps in your future, your career. And so if you want to know more, if you want to see all that I have to offer, check it out. I'll link it below, my book, the course. I also want to shout out a free resource that I have, which is the Mindset for Success album that I put together with one of my colleagues, Dr. Stephen Bradley. And it is meant to be an encouragement to you, encouraging you on your testing journey. So check that out. I'll also link it below. Like, subscribe to this channel, share it with someone who needs to be encouraged. Maybe you're a part of their ecosystem, and I will see you in the next video.